I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristen Sunanta Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
That night when I started praying, I cried, will you ride the lows with me? Will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blurry.
Christal, thank you so much for coming on the network with your podcast and also for just coming on my show with me.
Thank you for asking me to be here. I'm so honored.
Yeah, we are too. And I think it's interesting. I wanted to start out with this because everyone's heard a little bit about you, but I wanted to get your take on, I get to see a high level view of sort of what's going on in terms of the mental health space. And it's really interesting that right now people are very focused on grief. As we have a surge of shows that are coming in that are really focused on grief, and not just grief as a whole, grief in specific spaces, which to me is really exciting.
Yes,
that we're delving into this and making it more layered and more nuanced. So tell me what you think about that, and then let's talk about the nuance of what your show covers.
Yeah, well, thanks for noticing that we are now having the conversation a little bit more than we normally have not been. And I think we are in a space now where we are able to, because we have been going through something called quarantine, COVID for the past 5 years. And although we are not wearing our mask wherever we go, and we're not always cognizant of putting hand sanitizer on our hands, we're still in a space of, oh my goodness, universal grief. We went through a shutdown of everything back in February, March of 2020. And then what did that mean? What does COVID do to people's bodies, all of that. And then we came right back out. We bust out of the house, and it was almost as if we forgot all about it. But a lot of us have not forgotten. And just like the era of the Great Depression, we know people who have lived through the Great Depression because of their habits, whether that's hoarding or not trusting the bank, putting your money up under the mattress or in a shoebox, those type of behaviors. But we will know this generation, this COVID generation, by our activities. We will see every now and then we see people with masks on, or we still have people who are very paranoid of vaccines or paranoid of people coughing around them in closed spaces. And we all know that we all have this thing about toilet paper and a thing about hand sanitizer. At any point in life, we may have to stock up for that for a moment where we get shut down again. So on alert now than ever before.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, right? I'd say mid 2020, I had taken a picture of, I think my dog was visiting me while I was trying to be in the bathtub, and it was some remark about See, I can't get a break anywhere. And behind and in the picture were like 4 rolls of toilet paper, and everybody commented on, oh, where'd you get that toilet paper?
Right.
Or like, we don't care about your dog. We're talking about
Yeah.
why do you have 4 rolls? Just sitting.
Yes. Yes. Because we are all looking. People were fighting over toilet paper and paper towels. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the thing. So, and then there was limitations on how much you could buy if you did find some in the store. So we have not forgotten that. Although it's not a conversation anymore, there's still some undercurrents of that time where there was mass panic or a misunderstanding of what was happening while we were in the house and everything was shut down. So I am Christal, and I am the owner of the Grief Center here in Nashville, Tennessee, where I have therapists here and myself that see people in grief and in mental health challenges, individual or group. So that's what I do on my day job, and then on my other times, which I've always feel like I'm working. I am the host of The Grip Spot, which was formerly Surviving Sibling Loss, the Forgotten Mourners podcast, but I changed the name when I got licensed and started seeing a wide array of people in grief. I changed it to The Grip, which is GRIP, which is grieve in peace while picking up the pieces. So I was always concerned with the fact that, when people die, we always say rest in peace, right? But what happens and what do people say to those who are survivors of that loss? What do we say? Sometimes I've heard people say go in peace, but my thing is I say grieve in peace.
Mm.
And that doesn't always mean that it's peaceful. Every peaceful pursuit has times of battles, has times of war and unrest. And then you get to a sense of some type of peace and calm in the choppy waters, but it doesn't always stay that way. So that is the premise of the Grip Spot podcast that is on YouTube and audio only.
Fantastic. And you also do this. I mean, I've seen your work out there where you're doing things. I mean, it looks like a full production studio. It's so good. I remember I had to stop and go, oh, she is doing a lot more than a lot of what other podcasts are doing. Not that, what they're doing isn't great. Their niche is the audio world, but you're also doing this on camera. And I know the amount of work that it takes to actually do that is
Yeah,
a lot.
it is phenomenal. I tell people I bleed on this mic every time
Ah,
because audio only was really good. But when I moved over into visual spaces, I had more men asking to be on the podcast, which was not my regular. It was not the regular thing in audio only. It was mainly women who were asking. But once it became visual, our men are visual. Once it became visual, I had more men volunteering to be a part of the podcast. And when I also opened it up for just sibling loss, I opened it up to other losses. They were like, oh, yeah, I'm ready to talk. So I've been enjoying having people locally come in and have conversations. And even my family, they say, oh, I didn't know that about you, or I didn't know that. Even we talked about divorce. I didn't know that. I've learned a lot about, this type of grief and how people process it. So it's been really good to have.
how are you about the camera piece? For some people, it can be really jarring. It can be, I
Yeah.
remember doing things and I was doing an 8-minute segment on a news show and it was live. So if my nose itched, there's no easy way when the camera's on your
Yes,
face, there's no easy way to be like,
yes,
no,
yes,
look away like you can with Zoom. I mean, the amount of energy that it took not
yes.
to cough.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
I know it. I know it. And it just leaves room for
yes.
humanity and for grace because there's been so many times that people don't see what I see in the videos. And I talked to my editor and he's like, you know what? The next time, leave your handy dandy fan away from you. Because in some of my episodes, I have my little purple fan sitting next to me so I can keep my glasses from fogging up when I get hot. And you can see it. You can see it, and nobody else said anything about it, but I saw it. My editor saw it. Nobody else cared. So it's just one of those things where it's like we care the most, and the people that are getting the information don't care, just as long as you're presenting. If people are saying anything about your hair or how you're dressed and all of that stuff, like, I mean, that's not the podcast for them to watch. But people who
Exactly.
really need the information, they're seeking after information, even personality and genuineness. Because when we watch things on YouTube, we watch things on TV, there's a lot of AI out there. There's a lot of disingenuous people who plagiarize all of this stuff. This comes from off the top of my dome. My people, we don't have a script. I don't go off a script. Even if I did write something down, I always go off of a script. It
Yeah.
never fails, never fails. So this is a genuine people's stories of healing, in not scripted. Would people rather have me scripted? It would sound more like a podcast versus a show, probably, but that's just not my style.
Yeah, I think I tried the whole scripting thing because I was trying to be good when I first started podcasting. So maybe the first year, but that's 12 years ago at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
And then and some of those shows are still up there, and I'm like, who was that person? I should
Yeah.
take those down. But then I look at it like it's an arc of my own healing too, where I was at the time that I asked those types of questions and felt like I needed to be much more controlled. And then over the years and whatever I was going through. So I wanted to ask you about that for yourself when you're doing these. You're right. People are craving authenticity.
Yeah.
They're just like, there's so many women going without makeup now.
Hmm.
There's wearing more gender fluid outfits and stuff. And I'm all for all of that because I just am an orator. That is how I write my books is I speak them and I edit what I've spoken. And it's so much better than me trying to force that into typing. So I wonder
Mm-hmm.
with you, what have you noticed about yourself through this process, introducing a camera and watching your own ability, even though you already have this ability, because look at what you choose to do for a living, but it
Mhm.
still rocks your
Different.
world to,
Oh, yes. It is
for yourself
different.
to watch, oh man. And do you ever look back at earlier shows and go, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll
Mhm.
leave that out there.
Yeah, I do. Because we always tend to compare ourselves to other people. And in my mind, actually, I have trained my voice to not be my natural voice. Like, I am actually at a higher register, and I'm a natural soprano. So it
Interesting.
used to be that I spoke a little bit higher then. I had a higher tone and then higher pitch, but I have actually gotten it to where I have trained it to where it's sounds more professional,
Right, right.
more, yeah, a little bit deeper, professional woman here. So that is one of the things that I have really worked on. And I also have like a speech impediment that nobody really knows about until they really know me. And I've worked and trained myself against that as well. So it's a lot of teach self-taught things and watching YouTube, hours of YouTube to try to study people and how they speak and how they orate and all of those things. So that right there is when I first got on to video, I was like, oh my gosh, my hair, my makeup gotta be done. And the best thing about the first part of it was when I first started video, I was sitting behind a desk. So the sitting behind the desk was actually made me feel better,
Mhm.
and it was just like our face and then top part of me, and then we're across the table kind of like the Joe Rogan style, and I liked it. I really liked it. I mean, there are times where I where it was self-critiquing when I watched it back, and then this season I decided not to hide behind the desk and actually sit on a couch, and y'all, that right there, whew, is one of the things that caused me some anxiety, but I felt as though I needed to do it. I needed not to hide behind a desk. I needed to sit and have a casual conversation with my co-siblings, I call them, and co-grievers versus guests. I needed to have that conversation without having the desk in front of me. and I just wanted to present my whole body, which is
Wow.
hard
Just
to do.
reclamation right there. I mean,
That's
seriously.
hard. It's so hard to do, especially as a business owner. I've been stressed, had some weight gain between last year and this year. And so
Yeah.
there's times where I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't have wore that. Ooh, I shouldn't have. Oh, next time. And every time I try to hide it, it seems like I make it worse. I was like, I shouldn't have wore that.
It's
But
so
there, yeah,
weird. It's
yeah,
kind of weird to like go back and analyze
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
because now there's the parts of me that were still very shallow, that was critiquing and what I critiqued at that time and now, and then watching how that evolved. And when I dipped back into that critique, what was going on in my life at the time? What was so
Yes.
loud in my life that made me be even more critical? It's
Mhm.
bizarre. It's information, data about,
Mhm.
data about yourself to look at and go, huh. And
Yeah.
also, it opens up such avenues for compassion for yourself because people don't understand. I think they do more because more people are podcasting, more people are on YouTube. But some people really don't understand, you're not just a host you're going
Yeah.
through this too. And we're not talking about making widgets here. We're talking about
Mhm.
making people, so it's really interesting to see your own emotional arc as you do this and how free you can
Yeah.
try to be
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah. Yeah. It really, in my last episode with my co-griever Warren, I had him on there and we were talking about entrepreneurship. We were talking about podcasting, grief, and all of that. And he said something that was so pivotal to me about just how we talk to ourselves and having the self-grace and even like the resistance of things when we try to do stuff and it gets challenging or so hard and we want to quit. He talked about that and I was like, oh my gosh. He said, no. He said, can't stop, won't stop, can't stop, won't stop. So I said, no matter what it is, I can't stop, won't stop. So I appreciated that episode because it really made me look at myself differently because sometimes you just don't know. You don't know
Right.
what you look like to other people. You have your own criticisms, but you don't know what you look like to other people, how they see you presenting this information, because it's information that I know, right? And I assume everybody else knows, but then no, they don't. I get calls and I'm like, I just didn't know that. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I was able to be that avenue for you to know this information. So lots of self critiques in there, but also learning. I'm also learning that, hey, I am a vessel of the information. I am the vessel of being genuine in this space. And it's a unique space to be in as a therapist and a little sister and a podcaster and a business owner. It's a unique space, but I'm making my way through the forest. So can't stop, won't stop.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because you're when you do something with passion like this and it's a map of your business life but also your personal life. I mean, there's not it's not a job where you go and you do a task and then you leave and that state and that is done and now you're at home doing your thing. I mean, this permeates what we do, permeates throughout every avenue of our lives, from the first moment we look in the mirror and brush our teeth
Yeah.
to when we lay down our head on a pillow at night. So it's an interesting journey. The grief aspect of this, can you talk a little bit about why this was such an important topic for you?
Yeah, yes. I am a surviving sibling. My sibling died in 1997 as he was a brand new 18-year-old. He just turned 18. He had what we call acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So ALL was diagnosed when he was 17 in the fall of that year, which was his senior year in high school, and I was a 14-year-old freshman. And that was that one year that we were able to go to school together. I was a freshman, he was senior, we were in the same school. And that was just watching him go through that process of chemo, radiation, in doctor's appointments, being poked and prodded. and our relationship and what that means for watching a young person go from being a rambunctious, viral boy to being sickly and not able to talk to us and just being tired of going through all the treatment that he was going through. I was also a bone marrow match to my brother, and we never made it that far to get to the bone marrow. He was not strong enough. So my brother passed April 10th of 1997 after 7 months of going through the treatment of ALL. And I watched as a 14-year-old my life just completely change. And I had some anger with having to have him gone, that he left me by myself as if he had all the choices to leave me. But for a while, I was upset with him for leaving me with my parents. And what am I going to do? So I didn't have the words. I didn't have the expression as a 14-year-old. I did not. I kept a lot of things very internal, very internal. And I denied my grief until I left to go to college, which was like 3 years later. And once I got into college, which was the best decision I ever made, is to be away from home for college, because the pressure of parental grief and watching them and trying to help was a bit too much. So I got to college and started to sing, and realized that my grief started in college as an
Wow.
18, 19-year-old. That's when it started. And then had an incident where I was depressed for a full year, having panic attacks, didn't know anything about a panic attack whatsoever. Just thought it was a medical issue, and then went from there. Just started to work out, try to take better care of myself, and singing helped me grieve. It helped me be emotional and gave me permission to be emotional because we sang in different churches and things in Memphis, Tennessee. So that's where I started grieving, was when I was alone in college, and then entered into this field. I wanted to run from grief as a therapist. I didn't want to do that work. And then I got my own therapy. And in my therapist was asking me just about my narrative. Tell me all the things about your grief. Tell me about your brother. Tell me about your journey. And from there, she told me I was not attached to my story. And when I was telling her all the things, she was like, there's no emotion, there's no nothing. And then I realized that I was intellectualizing my feelings, and I was not sitting with these feelings still after so many years. By then, I was 38 years old.
Yeah.
So started the podcast so that I can start to express myself and tell, and almost as if at that age I was when I started, I wanted to be able to speak for the 14-year-old that never got to say what she needed to say. So that's how I started the podcast. And then that's how I am the owner of the Grief Center and the work that I do because of my brother and the journey of being complex, this grief being complex as a young person before the age of the brain development is complete. Grief makes things complex in the brain, so in the body. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why I'm here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I called the mic my truth stick, right? I mean, and something about using your voice, the singing too, it helps give you when you're an intellectualizer, which I am too. Like I lived like from the chin up, right? But then when you use your voice,
Mhm.
you're hitting your throat and then you're getting into your diaphragm, and that's closer to your heart. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to make that journey downward from
Yeah.
my head, and doing this medium helped facilitate that happening. And then I remember I was because I come from a musical family, and I just didn't go there. There was just too much wrapped up in abuse and things like that to go there. But I started singing just at home because I didn't want any cats in the neighborhood to die by doing it.
Right. So crazy.
Like insects are falling from the sky as I sing. What is the
Yes.
problem here? But anyway, the
Mhm.
practice of doing it, I
Yeah.
started doing it last year. I could not stop crying. I could not
Yeah.
get a song out. I was like, whoa, how long has this been trapped?
I can feel that. That's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when you're holding the space, you obviously know how to hold space for people because you learn that, you learn it for yourself, and then you get it reiterated with school. When you are doing a podcast, you're not in a space where you're the therapist,
Right.
you're the human having this experience with another human. How is that different for you than the therapy room?
Oh my goodness. And sometimes my roles as little sister, and that's why my alias on the podcast is this is little sister Chris and your grief therapist. So there's sometimes where I go in between, right? I'm little girl, I'm 14, I'm little sister, and I'm talking to people, and then I'm interviewer, I'm podcaster. I need to be able to formulate this podcast in a way that people can understand and people can follow. We stay on topic. And then there's like the therapy brain that wants to ask these very in depth questions. So I think they all just kind of hold hands in one podcast session. And because it was powerful, I had a couple on last month and they lost their son to gun violence. And as they were on the podcast, I asked them a question about how they both grieve separately. And they looked at each other and they were like, you know what? I don't know. Like, never had that conversation, and they have been going through this since 2018, and this is 2025. And so the wife, who is the stepmother to the son, or the bonus mom, they call it, to the son, was talking about how she grieved privately, how she used outside resources like people from the church and family, and she cried to them. She cried and prayed in her closet. And then what she wanted to do is to go ahead and support her husband, who was the biological of father to the son, and they grieve completely different. He did not know that because his grief, he went straight into action. I need to be able to continue the work in the community with the boys and the basketball, the youth, and all of that. I need to do all these things, and he was just working, and she was back there just supporting him in his work. And they came together on the podcast and learned some new information between the two of them. So that's the power of therapy. And not
Yeah.
even know. I did not know that was going to happen, but he said, he was like, I did not know that. And there's sometimes where there was one part where she said, well, we talked about, and he was like, I didn't realize it. So that's the power of the podcast, even though I wasn't their therapist and I know them, but it's one of those just having those conversations between couples and between people who, as they're talking about it, they're like, oh, they have these aha moments, just like in therapy. So they kind of all just kind of hold hands and they're in harmony with each other. So I'll take off one hat and put on the other one and then the other one. So it is a good like ring around the roses here when it comes to me being the host of the podcast.
I know sometimes it's interesting when the really good like I look at it like it's my job, and I love it when somebody says, "Oh my gosh, our time is up already. I totally forgot that we were even recording something." And I'm like, "Yes, bonus." But then
Yeah.
other times someone is struggling for whatever reason, and I'm doing a tap dance through this thing. I am sweating.
Mhm.
No one can see it, but like my armpits are getting itchy and hot. I'm
Yeah.
having a problem. I can't get this to move. What do I do? And then I just, for me, okay, just let go, let it be what it's going to be. And then when you turn off the recording, all of a sudden, magic. You're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, it was meant to happen that way. So
Mhm.
tell me a
Mhm.
little bit. My last question will be around. Tell me a little bit about those after moments, the sort of the reflection and witness that comes after the podcast and the YouTube video has stopped.
Oh my goodness. Cause mine's visual, right? And we are in the same space. So we get to feel each other's energy while we're in there. And a lot of my guests, well, I feel like this, we're in synergy. We are on the same page, even though we did not know where this podcast was going. We just knew we were going to talk about grief. And now there are times where I'll ask, especially if it's a homicide, is there some questions that I don't need to go to? I don't need to talk about. Or if there's something that we get into and you cannot say, just please let me know. We are still under investigation. All those, just let me know. But what I have found that is so amazing, and even for myself, that these podcast episodes, even though on YouTube it doesn't translate to like your Joe Rogan views or
Right.
subscribes, it doesn't translate to all these bigger gossip, all these YouTube influencers that get multiple subscribes in one day or views in one day. It doesn't go to that, right? But for me, the satisfaction that I get is having to watch and rewatch a episode over and over again. And me even learning from my co-grievers and my co-siblings, and me taking all of this and taking it into my life, and working inside my sessions too with my clients too. So I'm still learning
Yeah.
from my co-grievers and co-siblings so much information. So once that camera comes off, it's almost like we sit and we look at each other like, what was that?
I know.
What was that? And I want to gather everybody so we can all go out to dinner one day and just talk about the after effects, because I've gotten people who have called me, text me about their episodes, and outside folks, and when he said this and when they said that, and when you asked this question, it was like, oh my gosh. So it is amazing to me when those cameras come off, the lasting effects of a podcast. Because we're not just talking, we're not doing daily gossip, we're not doing anything like that. We are inside people's homes and hearts and minds, and it is powerful.
Yeah, I think about a lot of the shows I was doing about narcissism and the kind of abuse that comes from those specific kinds of dynamics.
Mm.
And I mean, I've left them all up, even though my ideas about narcissism and what it is and how effectively it can label and pigeonhole people that want to evolve and people that don't, and all of those things. But I leave them there because there's so many people that say, I have no privacy. I'm being watched and clocked 24 hours a day. And sometimes I just need to listen to those shows in order to go to sleep.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, well, that's why they'll stay there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing to just to go to sleep, because sleep is important. We
Yeah.
don't know how important it is until we're missing it.
And when someone's keeping you from sleeping as part of the inaction of control
Yeah.
over them,
Right.
again, hearing someone else's voice and helping rebuild neural pathways as much as you can,
Yeah.
trauma doesn't leave much room for growth
Mm.
until you get some space from it, which is probably why college was so good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was perfect. Those are some of the best years of my life.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, your
All
independence.
over again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, I want to make sure, I know you've said already, but let's just reiterate it at the end here. Where can people find you? All that good stuff, your website, everything.
Yes, yes. So thanks so much for having me again. And you can find me on YouTube at the Grip Spot. That's TheGripspot. And then online, my website is thegripspot.com. And you can find me on audio only. So Chris got me hooked up to get the audio onlys. I need to update it. So if you see the former name Surviving Sibling Loss, the Forgotten Mourners podcast, that's still me. We changed the name over in 2023, 2024 to The Grip Spot. But you can find me on all those platforms, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, in all of your podcast streaming apps. So you'll get to know from 2019 all the way up to 2025 how far I've come.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, listeners, the YouTube show, I mean, the audio is fantastic. You know, I love that medium, but I gotta say, watching the YouTube videos, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
deepened in a
Yes.
different way. It's not deeper, it's just deepened in a different way because you really show up as yourself.
Mhm,
And that
mhm.
invites your guests to do that too. There is no, I don't know, I detected no practiced anything. You're just being you. And that is what people are craving right now. They want to see people just being who they are, wherever they're at that moment. And you show up for that. So
Yeah, yeah.
bravo.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will keep doing the work as long as I can.
All right, we're going to chat for a second after. We'll have our own little after show. But for now, listeners, please go check out Christal. And thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
We're not here to sugarcoat it. All Abilities No Filter dives into the raw, real-life experiences of families, educators, and advocates in the world of autism and disabilities. It's honest, powerful, and full of practical insight. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, or just someone who cares, we've got something for you. Listen to All Abilities No Filter everywhere you find your podcasts. All Abilities No Filter is brought to you by Springbrook Autism Behavioral Health.
Will you ride the low, low, lows with me? Will you ride the low, low, lows with me?
One thing you can always count on at Mental Health News Radio Network and my show is that there will always be dogs around. Why? They are natural healers, excellent for your mental health. The original therapy dog Miles has something to say in just a moment. For now, please check out all of our amazing shows at mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com and all your favorite podcast apps. Until next time, I'm Kristen Sananta Walker, and thank you for listening.
Me tonight, and I can ride the low, low, lows with me. I can ride the